Hi, I'm Thara Narasimhan,
And I'm Rashmi Venkatnarayan.
and today we're interviewing Dr. Nandipuram D. Narasimhan.
And Mrs. Thara Narasimhan on behalf of Foundation for India Studies Houston for the Indo-American Oral History Project in partnership with the Houston Public Library and the Houston Community College. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Narasimhan, can you please tell us about your formative years in India and your educational background?
Okay. I was born in Kerala, Ernakulam, Kerala. And then my preliminary schooling was done in Kerala. And then we moved to Mumbai because the father got transferred from, father was working for Tata Oil Mills Company. And he got transferred to Mumbai since the company decided to move the research laboratory to Mumbai. So I came to Mumbai and did the rest of my high school in Mumbai. And then I did my inter science in Mumbai, Thara Narasimhan College. And then I did my Bachelor of Engineering at Ranchi University in Jamshedpur, RIT, Indian Institute of Technology. And then I joined Bombay IIT for my thermal power engineering. And that I completed in 1967. And then I decided to come to US to do my PhD because father was pushing me to do a PhD. So applied to University of Kentucky. My brother was there, so it was easy to get into University of Kentucky at that time. And then did my master's there. And then since I was gung-ho on PhD, I applied and got a scholarship at Texas A&M University and did my PhD, completed my PhD in 1974. Then I moved to Houston because one of the reasons I moved to Houston was that all the Aggies come to Houston to get jobs.
Nice.
So easy to get job, plus the weather suited me very well. It's hot and not very cold in the winter.
Right.
So ever since I've been in Houston, since 1974.
So what was the year that you actually came to the U.S. then?
1967.
1967. Okay, wow. And I guess to ask the same question to you, how was your formative years in education? Tell us a little bit about that background in India.
I was born in Chennai, brought up in Chennai, lived in Chennai for half of my years now, and the rest of it I've lived in the United States. I've lived only in two places, one in Chennai, one in Houston, which makes it very simple. But both the places have been a great kind of an experience for me, especially in Chennai, India, while I was growing up. I came from a very conservative family. And then, although with that background, they put me in a convent, so my first few years was education in a convent education. And then I joined the Theosophical Society, which is aligned to Kalakshetra, Besant Theosophical High School, and those two places, I learned a lot about, I had so much respect for interfaith, basically, going to a convent, transitioning into a Theosophical Society, where every day there will be 5 religion prayers. And also a lot of culture. Kalakshetra is the headquarters of all Bharatanatyam, music. We had stalwarts of all the past legends who used to be teachers in that school. And both my parents were very involved in a cultural kind of an activity. My mother was extremely kind of active person in the field of sports, in the field of Carnatic music. She had the first tennis court where Vijay Amritraj played their tournament, and we became a very big tennis family. My grandmother was a tennis player in a small village called Dindigul. We come from Dindigul, Tamil Nadu, and my father and mother are first cousins. So that made all our relatives very, common relatives coming from the same family. Very family oriented, and we almost, for many years, joint family system. So that way we have family values were very important while I was raised. And then I wanted to tell you guys, how did I meet my husband? Could be one of your questions.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
after my schooling years, I went to Queen Mary's College, And from there I went to Madras Medical College, where I did Masters in Microbiology. I wanted to do MBBS, but I was little underage when I first applied after pre-university. So I continued my education, finished my Masters in Microbiology, and parents were a little bit wanting me to get married. At that time, when your education is done, that's the next step that they look forward to. But then I told them that I would like to either work in a lab or have my own clinical lab. I was fortunate enough to do a startup on a clinical lab. I have 45 doctors who was referring patients to me. I had biochemistry professor who joined me as a partner, and I did microbiology and biochemistry of 7 years of experience there. So then it so happened my sister got married in 74, and her brother, like he said, his brother was also there in Kentucky and Chattanooga, Tennessee. They advertised on India Abroad. So I should say that I met my husband on the columns of India Abroad.
So just tell, what is India Abroad?
It's a newspaper where the people advertise for brides and grooms. So you can do a match. You know, if you are so many years old, you say, looking for a bride, with at least a good educated bride. That was the request by the groom side.
Plus, sometimes they put caste also.
They put yes, Hindu and all that.
Hindu,
and
yeah.
Simultaneously, my sister had advertised she's a postgraduate, and we are looking for a nice groom.
Right.
So with those two advertisements were next to each other in the column. So they said, oh, we have advertised, and they looked on the other side, they wanted the same kind of a requirement, matched the advertisement.
So you guys, who connected the dots?
My sister and his brother.
Okay.
That's what siblings are for, right?
Yeah, apparently.
Yes.
So they just took the same newspaper and connected the dots.
Yeah, she called each other, they
Yeah.
contacted, and my sister said that so-and-so will be arriving in Bombay, and he said so-and-so will be in Chennai.
Mhm.
But, in India, when the boys come, they'll go show them to 3-4 girls. And but which is, it was pretty...
So did you meet 3-4 girls?
More than 3.
Now we have that on camera.
So what made...
Why Thara Narasimhan?
Yeah, exactly. What made mom? So for me, these are my parents, and this is my wife.
My beautiful in-laws.
So what made you choose... Like, how did this happen? Like, tell us about that story.
It's difficult. Father said, let's first, when I arrived in Bombay, father had already advertised in an Indian newspaper also.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to Bangalore. That's where our parents came from Bangalore.
Mm-hmm.
So we went there looking for girls, and probably nothing was suitable.
Right.
So we returned, and then she came to Mumbai. So when we met in Mumbai,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had one lunch, right? One lunch or dinner?
Yeah, Pritam restaurant.
Pritam restaurant.
Uh-huh.
And then I said, okay, that's it.
Nice. So that must have been quite an experience for you, right?
Yeah, I was really kind of a little bit hesitant about this boy meeting girl kind of a thing.
Uh-huh.
But yet, my parents said, it's okay, just to, go to this was our family friend who invited me to Bombay. And he called me and said, just come and visit me. This boy just can come and meet you and go, it doesn't matter, but you're coming to my house and stay. And when we were there, we called the family. He came and met, and then he said he wanted to have an idea as to what I had in mind too. So that is why the meeting in Pritam was arranged, so that he could really talk to me openly. And that is how it just got. And destiny is always there. You count on it, supposing, if you are destined to marry somebody, they'll come right in front of you and appear at the right time.
I was ordained to marry her.
Yeah.
So that happened. Like you were ordained to marry her.
Hey, there you go. So I'm curious, one of the topics of your guys' first meeting must have been coming to the U.S.
Yes, and of course, it was there. And since, I knew my sister lived here, she got married in 74, and this was in 81. Our marriage took place 6 years after.
Mhm.
So, and basically, I did want to come and study here too. I did my GRE, TOEFL exams and all that when I was in India soon after I finished my master's. But getting into a university, my parents said get married and go, get married and go. It was a normal kind of a thing for parents to feel bad about young girls going to India at that time. Now, you see, the better kind of understanding of all this. Before in 80s,
Yeah.
it was just, So I said, well, at least I'm busy doing what I'm doing, so I didn't worry about it.
Okay.
And that was one of the things he asked me. Are you coming there just to get a visa? Are you there for some other reason?
So he was taking care of the immigration officer's questions himself. But that was obviously, so you've been in the US, before getting
Yeah.
married, and you said you arrived in Kentucky. So what was that like, back in the day to come to Kentucky and be by yourself? What were the challenges you faced?
Oh, biggest challenge was food. Everything, could not get vegetarian food there. Everything anything you buy, they added beef fat at that time. So it was extremely difficult. And I used to eat 3-4 apple pie for lunch or sometime, just
wow.
to fill the stomach.
And one more thing about students coming from India in fall, Northeast gets very cold. And the very first few winters, they have little problems like skin becomes so dry and the cold really gets to them. So those were he felt homesick a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was cold and I had to study hard. I came on a Tata scholarship.
Okay.
So the first semester they gave me money.
Okay.
So I had to take full credit. 12 hours of credit in a graduate school is very tough.
Right.
So I had to study all the time, study.
Right.
Mhm.
And during your studies, what was your interpersonal relationships with the rest of the students? Did you feel like you were an outsider? Did you blend in well?
They were friendly. Most Americans were quite friendly, prepared to help, and we were prepared to, we were interactive. Sometimes we discussed problems, questions, and exams, things like that. So there was no problem. They were very cooperative.
Right. So would you say that helped you envision a life for yourself in the US? Did you think, okay, this is a society where I can blend in and have a life here?
No, when I came only for PhD. I was not planning to settle down.
Okay.
My plan was to get a PhD, earn some money, and go back. But it didn't work. When I came to Texas A&M to get the scholarship, I had to apply for a green card. They said you had to be a resident to get money, scholarship. So I had to apply for a green card, and then they gave me a scholarship. And the student days were okay there.
Mhm.
No problem.
And so how were you able to build a sense of community being by yourself?
No, there are a lot of Indian students there at A&M
Mhm.
and at Kentucky too. They helped a lot.
Okay.
In fact, when I arrived in Lexington from New York, I was met by my brother's friend at the airport.
Okay.
He took me over to his house, fed me, met the dean of foreign students. There is a dean too for foreign student affairs. So met him, and then they arrange your residence, etc., fees, etc.
So it was nice to have almost a little bit of a support net.
Correct.
And this is also with the relative strangers, ultimately.
Correct.
And is that something that would have happened in India? Like, would you have that sort of social support if you were going to an out-of-state, or is it more family-based?
Well, you went to Hyderabad. How did you? So, of course, mom took you over there.
Yeah, I guess, if I were to answer that question, there was a bit of a support network, mostly from the school. But outside of that, I would say it was family that we relied on to kind of help set us up and get us going.
Let me interrupt here. It is America also had students exchange program, the point when I was growing up and studying. When I was in college, Queen Mary's, we had one American student from New York who came and stayed with us for a semester. She went to college school to experience what it is like to be in India as a child, student, growing up, go with the family. So we adopted her, and she's still become a part of our family now after 30, 45 years. We still are one. And she came to experience with us. I would give a small thing that, you know, how we struggle when we come here about vegetarianism and all that. She struggled the other way around. She missed meat so much that my mom used to bring food from outside and give it to her, which was all curry powder. She'd wash it, take off the hot part, and eat. You know, they were so, you know, you look so out of place. Yeah. Except for that, she blended very well. She learned sitar a little bit over there while she was there. And of course, it is family oriented, but they also come to the school, college with you to study. They learn a lot. So they are, although it's this, either way, it works out. The human heart is the same. Mm-hmm. And the culture is always the same when you travel from one different country to another.
Right. Yeah, so it sounds like you've had a very interesting childhood in India and all throughout your formative years. Mm-hmm. And from what I've listened from you, and as we have seen, of course, you know, you're a very strong and independent woman. So for you in the 1980s to come to America and be an Indian independent woman here, what was that like for you?
Initially, especially coming to Texas, it's a very conservative type of a state also. So the acceptance here grew slowly along with the community growing up. Before, they had a little bit of a concept of who Indians were. Many years ago, they even thought people in India had, you know, we had snakes running around, we have elephants going wild and stuff like that. That was the impression of India. But later it changed, especially, you know, Indians being very highly educated. The way we have our culture, when you go to work, you give your 100%, if not even more. So that way, we had a lot of respect from the community when I came here. And so as far as women issues were concerned, America themselves were struggling for the rights of women to be on the top. But at any point in my life, especially with the background that I've had as far as certain of my concepts in both religion and social, I felt women were highly respected in India in the Vedas. When you go back, I got deep into studying of the Veda in 2 times in my life. That one was my uncle, who gave me a great kind of a value as far as a Vishishtadvaita philosophy was concerned. I wanted to learn, go deep into it, to know more as to who we are, what we do. When I studied comparative religion, as I said, I was in a theosophical high school, the interest in me provoked me to go learn more deep about it. So whenever the issue of equality of women or trying to get the women being more, I said, women are already exalted in our Vedic scriptures. Matru Devo Bhava. That is, respect women first, Mata, and then the Pita comes. Not because there is a kind of a competition here, but you know, the mother's grace is more profound when it comes to certain things. So as a woman, even Devi, everything that we have got in our values exalted us. So I said, why fight for something we already have? So with that concept, I felt good wherever I was. And even if they had to say something about even, you know, superiority in a marriage or whatever, so it is always when you welcome Mahalakshmi to your place, which is goddess of wealth, everything else is in that wealth itself. Your child, you have many different forms of Lakshmis. That way, I'm very proud of being a woman and to support women's causes. I'm there to say we are stronger, and I feel good about it.
That's wonderful. So, yeah, and also from what we've understood, since you've been here longer than she's been here, and, you know, was there something that you learned from him when you first moved here?
I learned from him a lot. First, he taught me driving.
Which is so essential, like we all know.
We ventured into it. He gave me the independence to do, you know, kind of things that I desired to do. I wanted to, you know, get a job and then probably study. He was my coach in math and physics, which I had to go through Houston Community College, which provided that for me to certify for my medical sciences here. So that way it helped me. He has been a pillar of support, always very calm, very patient. I'm just the opposite.
So maybe we should turn the question to you. And what have you learned over the years from Thara Ma?
I learned a lot about Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
When I came, I didn't know I knew very little about Hinduism. I'll be frank on that one. She taught me a lot about Hinduism, and I started learning. And many people would ask me questions at the university about Hinduism, but I couldn't answer properly. But I learned from her. That's a major thing I learned from her.
Oh, wow. And so I'm curious, to switch topics a little bit, you guys arrive, or you're married now and you arrive in 1981. If we fast forward to today, I can list off probably about, almost up to about 10 organizations that you've been involved in over the years. Bharati Kalamandiram, Hindus of Greater Houston, Meenakshi Temple, the Janmashtami celebration, the radio program. There's just so many different activities that you've gotten yourself involved in. I'm curious, and not only that, you're the president, the chairman, the head of each of these organizations. How does that come about after landing in the U.S. In 1981?
It took me a little time to get the head start on those things, because the first 4 years I was concentrating on my employment. I was working at the Herman Hospital, and then I kind of worked for an urgent care clinic, and then Mediclinic, and then I got with the 2 doctors who owned the clinic. I started working for them since 1983. 2 years after I came, I could get a very good job because I qualified myself as a radiology tech also, besides being a microbiology tech. So with that background, I've been serving the same company for 33 years now. And I was concentrating purely to concentrate on that. Then it came about when I was pregnant and I had Kirti. For the first 2 years of that thing was I was more a caring mother, working part-time so that I can be home with him when he was a child. Later, I saw as being a kind of his being a single child for us. He missed having siblings, but he loved to be with his friends. And this is an opportunity for me to take my child to these cultural organizations. Not only will he learn culture, but he'll have a lot of friends. So this participation in organizations gave us opportunity to mix with everybody. And my basic background in India, as I told you, my father and mother were very involved in the community. They are helpful to everyone and anybody. You ask them for help and they'll go out of their way to help people. So I learned this as a child. And service is something that you can really give, service to anyone at any time at the needed point is very important. And that is, meaning of life also falls under that thing. So with that, I kind of not wanting to go up anywhere or anything, or it so happened that I joined Bharati Kalamandiram as a committee member. And then as it progressed, then I became the secretary. And then one time, the president had to move out of Houston. His job got him transferred. So by default, as a vice president, I became the president. So, but then since I was very much involved in organizing things and make sure that, we bring the best of programs, my experience came about in Bharati Kalamandiram as the president. And eventually, I also, as he was growing up, everything centered around, bringing the best to your kids, which my parents gave me. I wanted to do a shloka class for young children at my house so that he can also learn. And along with that, the other kids also could really recite. So one day they got so enthusiastic that I said, if you all recite good, I'll take you to Kambati's radio program so you all can recite. So they all perfected it, and then the next 2 weeks they were loudly chanting Sanskrit shlokas with diction, absolutely perfect. Then I took him to the radio station the first time I met him, And he was very impressed that children were coming up to, recite it in live on the studio, is when he told me, why don't you take active part here? After a few months, I stepped in when Dr. Bala had initiated the Meenakshi temple segment. And also going to Meenakshi temple was every 15 days. We used to sponsor a Pradosh Puja, and that is one way that Kirti could also come to the temple, grew up in that temple, get to know all the priests. He will walk into their house, and then he feels so much at home. They know what he likes, so they'll be prepared that Kirti was coming and he had his, favorite food. So that way we got culturally growing up along with kind of the kid learning all this, is when I even started working with Padmakant Kambati to do the radio program on Hinduism and especially the Meenakshi temple segment. That is almost about 12 to 13 years now. And Kambati ji also introduced me to the Hindus of Greater Houston. At that time, it's the first time they were doing Janmashtami every year for the past 25 years now. But at that point, I think 10 years ago is when they registered it as a non-profit organization in the state of Texas. At that time, they wanted to form a committee. So I joined there as a joint secretary. And we used to do Janmashtami, and I was in contact with all the Hindu organizations. I did the booth for them so that, on the Janmashtami day, I coordinated the booth spaces and registrations and all that. So that was my experience with the Hindus of Greater Houston. And I also, since I do my father worked for the Hindu newspaper, which is a national newspaper of India. And I used to write journalism kind of a thing whenever, I've read about it, I like the editorials, I give comments. So I became active reviewing most of the dance performances and concerts when it happens in Houston, and that is my hobby. It's nothing that I'm professional in it or good at it, but that is where I attempted to do that also.
Right. Yeah, well, I definitely think we can, as the Houston community leans on you to write the articles for all of the upcoming Arangetrams and
most sometimes, yes.
events. We'll let them be the judge of how good you are. But I think an organization, even today, you're going, after this interview, for an event with Samskriti. Can you tell us a little bit about that organization?
Yeah, this happened in 1997. Ratna Kumar is a very popular Houston ambassador of Indian arts. She and I were casually talking, and she said, we need to do a non-profit organization that brings special programs. It's one of a kind to be presented to the Houston audience. And she said, what do you think? I said, no, we should definitely do this where, we will be a kind of an organization that brings in certain special programs from India, from all over the world. We registered it in the state of Texas, and then we presented a lot of programs every year, right from, having 150 children present live the Ramayana. And I think he also participated in it as a Ravana.
Yeah, that's right.
But, besides being that, we also involved the children, and she directed it herself, and she did a lot of productions. And I became a part of it as a committee member again. And then I became a strong supporter that Anil Kumar and Ratna requested me to be the president. So I have been there for the last few years. And we bring seminars, conferences, Kuchipudi conference, and we also do one which is was involved by Vatsakumar. He used to present some of the cultures or ancient sculptures and did a lot of research on it. We used to do seminars and conferences on it. We have done Hosiala, and we have done about the kings of India. And these are some of the topics which are very interesting, done at the Museum of Fine Arts. So those are the things that we sponsor through Samskriti, and I'm very proud that the organization is doing well for the past almost 20 years.
Wow.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your achievements or milestones that you're proud of?
I don't think, my milestone is I spent, 37 years with KBR. That's, I think that never left the company. Once I joined it, I never left it.
Wow.
That's a commitment.
And what about being an accomplice to someone who has such a social
Try
life?
to help her in all her activities. That's,
Yes, he stands behind me through the way and encourages me to do that. And not only that, let me tell you, there was a point that my father and mother came on immigration here. He lived with the grandchildren, spent some time with my sister in Philadelphia and some time here with Kirti during his birthday and all that. And my father had a heart attack and he passed away in our house. It took me a little bit of a shock, but to get over all that, since he was young and my niece, both my niece and nephew my niece was visiting from India, they were all 2 or 3 year old. He just said, take the car, go to Florida. I said, you want me to drive by myself? He pushed me and giving me the confidence that yes, you can drive all the way from Texas all the way to Florida, taking the kids, it'll be good for your mom, and also to get over that. Within the few months after my father passed away, he gave me that confidence that I could go about driving by myself, taking all the kids and the family. So that way, he is very supportive, very patient. At the same time, he will give me all the strength, and I take it from him in all that.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
So I think I'm also, on a personal level, I'm interested in knowing about how it was to raise a child in the U.S., being first-generation Indians, having Kirti in the U.S., bringing him up and watching him grow in this society. How was that like?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it is a kind of, you have to, at every level of their growing up, the peer pressure, and then there were questions in his school about the religion you follow, and the teachers themselves invite you for the middle school. History books said one thing, they didn't know how to express it to the students. I used to volunteer quite a bit in his school because those formative years I was only working part-time. So I had time to go and work with all that. And besides that, we concentrated on his tennis. And about his tennis, I would like his dad to say that because he is the one who really encouraged him to get into sports.
Well, every weekend we had a Honda Odyssey. I think the first one it was Privia.
That's right.
Rode the car and Friday night take off. And she used to book the hotel. Every tournament, every corner of Texas he has played.
Yeah.
And come back Sunday night, Monday morning go to work.
So he dedicated himself in encouraging him, giving him the necessary coaching, and he developed his sports, and Kirti can tell you a little bit about himself on that.
I think one thing we didn't do right was give him a proper physical trainer, because we didn't know much about tennis. Of course, she has played tennis. I have not played tennis.
Yeah, competitive tennis was something
Yeah,
different.
if we had given him a proper physical trainer, it would have been probably playing like Federer now.
Well, I don't know about that, guys. I will say I was very fortunate for my parents to have encouraged me in a discipline, in a sport that just elicited such positive activities. Like it was so nice to have parents that were very encouraging. And I think it was unique even for Indian parents at that, because Indian parents, I think, not to be too stereotypical, but are always focused that their kids study, that that's the path to success. And I know that my parents were, when it came down to it, they said, B+ is okay. Don't worry. Just if you need to go to practice, and everything will be all right as a result of that. So I have to thank you guys for that encouragement.
So tennis, the competitive tennis taught us a lot of things that, gave us an outlook on life itself changed. What you see, every game is a kind of, you can win or lose. And what is to be a losing when you have all the things in it and still let go of the game. So that way made us better persons.
Right.
You know, the sports activities is one aspect. And the second aspect is, yes, there are many things that we have to learn from this American society that I feel very kind of happy that God was very fortunate that to give us a life up here. And I think it is a mutual balance of life between the two, taking the best of both the worlds.
Right.
That is what I feel. See, even this interview that we are doing right now is an opportunity given by the university to express different ethnic groups
Yes.
to how they are, how we make it in this foreign land and yet feel good about it, and then how we grew our roots up here. My roots was always back in India till such time my child was born. Now my roots have branched out here. I feel a sense of belonging. And then when I really became a citizen of the United States, and every moment the flag is kind of flying up there and the national anthem is sung, you feel, you know,
Yeah.
that you feel achieved something that is good, because this had lot of plenty to offer. It
Yeah.
does. Home
One
of
of
the
the-
free.
One of the matches I will never forget is, I think it was at Dallas. He was losing, the other guy was winning 5-1 or something. So I packed up everything and loaded the car and waited for him to lose and come and drive home. Waited. And nothing happened. And they started coming in. I asked him what happened, why so late? He says, I won.
That is
He
so
did not
very
lose a
nice.
point after that. He picked up and went to the car. After that, he never lost even 1 point. And he beat him 7-5 in the last set. So that way, there have been ups and downs. That is what I was talking about.
Right.
So nothing is done till you're done. We have got with so many phrases that way that at every point we
Game is not over
reminded
until the
about
last
it.
ball is
Played. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that perseverance has been a theme
Yeah.
throughout your life here in the U.S. I'm curious, kind of looking into the future, how would you advise people like ourselves, like first generation, and people that are born and brought up in the U.S.? What is a message you would leave to people like us and the future of Indian Americans coming and making a life here?
Well, first thing I would say is work smart, not work hard.
Mhm.
Number two, keep everything, simplify life, simplify everything. And organize. Those 4 things, 3 things. Maybe I told you some few more things, no?
Yeah. And can you tell us a little bit how you learned to reflect those things that you just talked about? Like,
Okay. When I joined Brown and Root, I thought everything was technical. Technical was more important than networking or organizing. But as I progressed to different levels of junior engineer, senior engineer, lead engineer, I came to understand that technical thing is not that important. You can always hire somebody to do your work. It's organization, getting things done on time, budget. These things are very important in a company.
mhm.
So those things, you need to focus on those. Organization skill is very important.
Right. And did you shift your attention to
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
Mhm.
So, do you guys have any regrets
Coming to India, USA.
coming to the U.S.? Is there any part of you that feels like, oh, this could be better?
That's a tough question. Coming to USA made me rich, yeah, I can say that. If I had stayed in India, probably I'll be retired by now and not enough money. So in that way, coming to USA was a good thing to do.
Mhm.
And how about you, Mrs. Thara? How do you feel about that?
Well, where I came from and what I am right now, I'm pretty much pleased where we have developed, our roots up here too. And with that, the future generation will be happy to see the many different temples that we have built. And one thing I have done for the Hindus of Greater Houston also, to compile how many organizations, how many temples we have built here, how many cultures, all these data, we try to put it on our website, as well as looking at all of it. The preservation is what everybody is concerned about. We came here, we had the wherewithal to build all these temples, but right now how to maintain them, how the future of those maintenance are going to be, is one question behind our mind. And also, as we are all in the stage of our being senior citizens, how our life is going to be for the next 10, 12 years to build some senior living community, so that, there will be a lot of care that is needed for the geriatric group. And we have, of course, senior citizen associations propping up in every different organization. They are looking at how the seniors can spend the time both productively, as at the same time, take care of each other. Because I know as children that your profession will come into play, your family's building up will come into play. You will have many other concerns. But taking care of senior citizens is a very big responsibility that the future is going to have. So I'm working with some other organizations to make sure that we help people out at that point and we become a little more self-sufficient in taking care of each other. And besides that, I think, the second thing that we have done is try to visit as many countries. He was fortunately given a lot of foreign assignments, and he has lived in both Asia, Africa, and many other places. So that way, travel is one of the things that you learn many things from. So I am pretty much open, wherever you are, you can be happy. At the same time, you can also be productive and give back to the community whatever we can in the future.
Right. Wow. Yeah. So I'm curious. Like I said, you guys are now getting to the golden age of your life. Tell us, what is the plan for this? You talked a little bit about the retirement community, but is this more involvement in the community? Tell us a little bit about what the outlook of the next 10, 15 years has in store.
Personally, I won't be as active as to be kind of trying to get involved. Nowadays, I try to keep up with technology too. Things are done by apps, things are done on websites, things are done which is more attractive to the younger generation who can really catch up with things. And as even if I travel around the world, I can still communicate very quickly on Twitter and things like that to post my ideas and help people. So that way, but not actively, go myself in per se and do things, but we can have options of helping people through these kind of facilities that is offered. And I think that would be one of the things that I plan to do. Mm-hmm. And, you never know what the future holds. Sometimes, that is also being a saying, we'll have to take it as it comes.
Yeah. I have to take care of my brother, and I have to take care of my sister in India.
He has certain
responsibility. I have a responsibility there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tell us a little bit about that family obligation, or the dynamic, because I think that's something that to Indian families is unique. Tell us about the closeness that you have with your brother and sister, and the same with you.
Yeah, we try to help each other out. If he's in trouble, or if he's not doing well, or if he has some problems, monetary problems, other problems, we try to help him out. So, my brother has some problems, mental problems. So I go down, because now I can't go I used to go every 2-3 weeks to Austin, buy him groceries, buy him all the stuff, and then come back and forth. I used to do that. Because now I'm traveling Africa. I can't do that every 3 weeks. So we keep in touch. So help him out medically or any other ways we can do.
Right. A family is close.
Exactly. It is kind of, as you said, Indian families are modeled, and more so I came from a very kind of well-knit family. definitely you stand there for each other and help each other out at any point.
So the distance hasn't mattered. You still have family in India. You guys are
still doesn't matter.
close.
So it is like you're being in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So tell me about how you're like Amsterdam and what is your profession and how do you go about it and what are your plans for the future?
Why don't you start us
I will
off?
start with you.
So at this moment, we're both living in Amsterdam, and I work for Tesla Motors, all-electric car company, and we're building stores and service centers all over Europe to try to accelerate the path to electric vehicles as quickly and mass market as we can make them happen.
Yeah. And I'm a medical doctor from India, and I'm on the pathway to being a resident doctor in the U.S., hopefully specialize very soon and give back to humanity and the society at large here. So that is a dream, the American dream to be accomplished.
Yeah.
And I think as I kind of reflect back for all my 32 years of living in the U.S., I find a very good balance between my kind of ambitions that I have accomplished as well as, I feel very proud being a part of the Houston community, which I've got a large extended family, I should say, that I have interacted with, got to know, and I'm very fortunate for that, and I really kind of feel happy about what I've done so far.
Right. And could you tell us about any awards that you've won or accolades that you've received over the time that you've spent here?
He has got a few from his work.
I became a full member of ASME, American Society of Mechanical Engineers.
Okay.
And then I passed the PE exam, Professional Engineers exam, so I can be PE in every state of US of A. And I received other certificates from my company,
Okay.
like ASHA recognition, things like that. That's about it. I was not involved in the communities like Thara.
Well, it was a fine balance.
Yeah, exactly.
He's more academically and I'm very socially, so I think that...
But we made our present by donating a lot of money to the temple, like Meenakshi Temple, ISKCON, and other organizations.
Almost all of the organizations.
Are you concerned with all these efforts that you're putting in? Obviously, are you concerned at some point there will be some erosion of this culture? Do you see that happening?
I really doubt it because, in every field of kind of music, dance and art, as well as, you see Indian kids really doing extremely well. I'm amazed by some of the talents that come up in Cleveland Tyagaraja Festival, as well as, even as a mark of being both political, you have a lot of, people who are born here, raised here, yet they have Indian background, have done a lot of achievements in every field. I'm very happy in every kind of different areas. They have excelled very well. And due to the family support that the Indian families have given them, I think we have really made a mark that I see a very bright future and nothing fading away. There might be monuments in case, if at all it comes in deterioration, will probably occur in the 50 years. But how you raise your children to give them the values and how you are going to keep it up comes into play at that point. And I'm sure you will all be doing very well, being proud inheritance and the heritage that you have acquired.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. It's been wonderful to listen to your journey and, so many takeaways from that conversation. And in the next 30 to 35 years, if any of us, achieve half the things you guys have achieved, we'll be so lucky.
Yeah.
Thank you for
I thank
with us
you,
today.
and I thank the Foundation of India Studies. I have to thank Krishna Vavilala as well as Veena, who has been very helpful and making this possible, and the videographer too. Thank you.
Thank you for giving us
Great.
a chance to interview our family. Thank you.
Thanks so much.